Hello, everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you so much for, like starting the chat off super strong. It's so lovely to see people from all over. If you haven't already, feel free to continue to share your name, pronouns, and where you're based in the chat. As for me, I'm Janora. I use she, her pronouns. I am based in Brooklyn and I am the Cultural Programs Manager at Kinfolk Tech. Yeah, I'm so excited to be kicking us all off today. We have a wonderful program with a wonderful person from Black Memory Collective, Melissa Nelson. And before we get started, I just want to, ground us really into the space. Next slide, please. So if you're not familiar with Kinfolk Tech, we are a radical technology collective and nonprofit that amplifies community stories at the intersection of art, technology, and history. We really bring place-based stories to light by weaving together immersive technology and community-centered design to build a new commemorative model that reshapes our collective memory, that connects generations, and also opens new pathways for imagining the future. So our work really is focused on reclaiming public space for race histories, preserving cultural memory and community legacy, while also making history visible, rendered accessible, and also envisioning collective action and liberated futures. Next slide, please. And to really just concretize that mission into our offerings, I just wanted to share, what we do in community memory work. We really do believe that every community deserves the tools to preserve its past and imagine its future. And so our work really amplifies that. We create AR monuments, augmented reality monuments. We work with community partners, artists, historians, and researchers to really create monuments in digital space that can kind of be placed. I don't know if y'all are familiar with augmented reality, but it's kind of, if you've ever played Pokemon Go, I feel like that's the easiest kind of connection there. But yeah, you can literally pull up our app, download a monument, and place it in real space, but you're seeing it through like your phone or your iPad. But we create these monuments with community and really focus on that community-centered design to uplift, yeah, critical community histories, critical community stories, histories that are not really getting the light shone on it as it should be. So that's like one of our focal offerings, but we also offer community programming like this one that you're here at today, this teach-in. We offer teach-ins, community imagination workshops, walking tours, etc., to really activate our technology, activate memory in dialogue and in conversation and community, because that's just as much as important as memory preservation, creating like a memory ecosystem while also activating that memory and keeping it alive in conversation. Yeah, next slide, please. And these are our zones of imagination. These are all of our sort of central focuses that really drive our programming. We have memory justice, digital justice, collective power, reparations, and radical futures. And today we're going to be focusing on memory justice and radical futures. When I say memory justice, I mean reclaiming and preserving cultural histories through community storytelling and archives to ensure marginalized stories and experiences are documented and passed down to future generations. And when I say radical futures, I mean envisioning sustainable, liberatory futures for Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and queer communities, moving beyond traditional power structures to imagine new worlds grounded in lived experiences. I want to say that in this current moment in time, with so much disarray and turmoil, this work is so important. It is just so important to be in this work of creating new imagining liberated worlds and also creating new terrain for our memory to be aligned with each other and really focusing on our dreaming power and our imagination power. With that being said, I'm going to say a few quick notes for housekeeping before I pass it off to Melissa from Black Memory Collective. I want to say that there will be time at the end of the event for Q&A. So throughout the event, please share your questions using the Q&A button on Zoom. You can also share your questions in the chat. Speaking of the chat, I want to encourage folks to continue utilizing the chat and being active in it. We really want this virtual space to be alive with your presence and energy. If you hear something you resonate with or you have resources to share, please share them. Yeah, and lastly, Kinfolk Tech is a nonprofit, so please stick around to the end for more ways that you can support us in keeping our programs free and open to the public, as well as more ways that you can support Black Memory Collective. And with all of that being said, I'd like to welcome Melissa Nelson from Black Memory Collective to introduce herself and flow us into this beautiful program that she's prepared for us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. My name is Melissa J. Nelson. I'm the founder and executive director of the Black Memory Collective. We are a nonprofit organization that supports Black workers engaged in cultural memory across Canada. We create spaces for connection, learning, and collaboration. I'm excited to talk about building imagination literacy. Over the years, I've been developing my own imagination practice. Imagination transforms static repositories into dynamic spaces of wonder. This deepens our connections to archival records and shapes how we understand our present. Next slide, please. So today we're going to explore imagination as a tool for archival research. We are going to use imagination to read between the lines of what is saved, fill in missing gaps, and question official histories. We will look at theory and methods for using archives for storytelling. Telling stories is powerful. It can help us make sense of the present and imagine the future. So this is our teach-in structure. I'm going to give a brief introduction to my practice. We're going to delve into a grounding warm-up to situate ourselves in the right mindset to do this work. We're going to go through some theory and methods for building our imagination literacy. I'm going to model how we can read archival records. You will be asked to do a few reflections and read an archival record yourself by applying the concepts discussed. And we're going to wrap up with a Q&A discussion. Next slide, please. So I want to ground us in some community guidelines. I invite you to bring your whole selves and take up space, have an open mind to explore new ideas and possibilities. We create an intentional space. We have a shared responsibility to ensure everyone has a positive experience during our conversation. And I ask that you be respectful to those who came before us and write from a place of care. I encourage you to take notes during the reflections. And also recognize when you're really interested in a terminology or when you're learning something new. Explore the actions that you can take to continue your learning. And please use the Q&A feature to ask questions at any time. Next slide. So I think it's important to situate this imagination work in my own context. I'm going to share a bit more about myself and the Black Memory Collective. So I'm a professional archivist. I preserve, describe, and share documentary memories for a living. Traditions of remembrance are passed down to me from my mother and to her from her mother. My mother is what you can call the family archivist. She creates, keeps, organizes, and cares for our family photographs. We often associate archival work with institutions, but it also exists within our homes. My mother is Jamaican, and this is a place where orality is a tradition and a practice. I have memories of my mother telling me and my sister folklore and oral histories that gave the family photographs depth and meaning. These stories have been passed down for generations. My mother would repeat the same stories until I remembered them. Anansi stories were my favorite. Anansi is a spirit and a shapeshifter. Anansi is a spider that can take human form. Anansi is a trickster and a teacher. Anansi is the keeper of memories. Folklore and oral histories teach us that imagination is a form of knowledge. Imagination is used to generate new ideas, innovate, and problem solve. Storytelling requires imagination. These stories are not fixed. They live on in the storyteller, breathing and moving to their imagination while they keep the core meaning and message alive. These remembrance practices led me to become a professional archivist. Next slide. In 2023, I founded the Black Memory Collective. We are a nonprofit organization that serves Black archivists, memory workers, and researchers in Canada. We support this community by advancing knowledge sharing and education in archival skills and cultural memory. We currently offer 2 events, Zoom Socials, which is a series of private online conversations guided by a collective member to discuss current questions explorations, practices, and research informing their work. And archive parties, which are gatherings in an archive to build a community of practice for Black memory work. We come together to learn archival skills, vibe to music, touch our history, and find community. The archive party events work to improve access to institutionally held Black archival materials that are relevant to our community's research and sense of home space. This work emerged in response to issues around lack of representation and the need for collective action. We are forming a national network and building a community of practice for radical history reclamation. Our main guiding principles are transformation, hope, care, and imagination. In our collective work, we use imagination to surface alternative stories and vision new possibilities. Next slide, please. So let's do a grounding warm-up for our minds. We are opening our imagination. You can close your eyes or gently lower your gaze. Take a moment to connect backwards in your mind to imagine the past. Breathe. Hold space for the memory of what you think makes Black life possible. Now slowly open your eyes and feel grounded in this moment. So the goal today is to be more literate in imagination in the archival realm. This means being able to identify, understand, and interpret archival materials so you can create and communicate imaginative storytelling. Next slide. So to do this work, we need to understand what is to imagine what could have been. So what are archives? The term archives can be used to describe historical collections or repositories of information. The archives, or repositories, collect and house evidence of the past for research in the present. Here I break down four main characteristics. Archives are for selection. Archives are sites of memory that were built in the context of colonialism to maintain white dominance. What they collect has real-world consequences for what we remember. Archives contain what we call gaps and silences. Gaps are what is missing from the official record, and silences are the voices that cannot be heard because they were not preserved. Perpetuity. Archives collect records to be storehouses of infinity. Archives want records to live past their creators. Archives are spaces of power that were meant to last forever. Exploration. Archives are for research. You can uncover forgotten stories and unstudied evidence. Archives are spaces for wonder, possibility, imagination, and curiosity for the stories that were left behind in the records. An intervention. Researchers engage with archives for creative intervention. Archives are sites of archival recovery and discovery. Our encounter with archival records can spark alternative storytelling as interventions of colonial lens. Next slide. So one important intervention is imagination. The concept of the archival imaginary has existed, been reinterpreted, and reunderstood within the archival field. It describes the ways communities creatively explore speculation and collective memory to fill gaps within the historical record. If we consider this from a Black lens, there's a growing body of work that intersects the role of re-remembering, reimagining, and reclamation with Afrofuturism in the archival realm. This Black archival imaginaries, then, are the ways that we question assumptions, perceive possibilities, and engage in speculative and reparative thinking. is also the ways that we reclaim stolen agency and how we insert alternative narratives about the past and future. Our imagination plays with the realms of the probable, the plausible, and the possible. Next slide. Now I want to walk you through some methodology for our imagination practice. We have to understand that this is heart work. This work is an expression of love for Black life. We engage with our hearts to hold space for possibilities. Writer Sadiyah Hartman uncovers hidden, erased, and forgotten Black lives through a writing practice she calls critical fabulation. This is the speculative reconstruction of lost stories through archival research, critical theory, and fictional narrative. This is the process of writing against the archives, a creative method of challenging what is explicitly saved to confront official repositories and correct historical silences. As she explains, I work a lot with the scraps of the archives. I work a lot with unknown persons, nameless figures, ensembles, collectives, multitudes, the chorus. That's where my imagination of practice resides. That's where my heart resides. So we may only have the scraps of the archives, as she calls it, but we can use it to imagine otherwise, remember otherwise, and surface possibilities to honor Black humanity in life and death. Next slide. Artist Camille Turner teaches us that silence is information. She utilizes what she calls an Afronautic mythology to imagine around the archival silences to find the otherworldly. Together with her siblings, they form the Afronautic Research Lab as Afronauts, space travelers, engaging in social practice projects. She draws from the cosmology of the Mali people to imagine a journey by water and space. The lab walks visitors through encounters with suppressed archival documents, records that have been hidden through colonial archival practices. Visitors are invited to annotate copies of records to give voice to what has been silenced. They use speculative storytelling as a vehicle for awakening and unsilencing the archives. As she explains, the Afronauts are space travelers who are descendants of the Dogon people of northern Mali, West Africa. Our extraordinary knowledge of star systems encoded in our stories and rituals predates Western science. Our ancestors left Earth 10,000 years ago, and each generation inherited the knowledge that Earth is our home. We have returned because our beloved planet is in danger. Our mission is to help and to heal, and we do this by unveiling silenced truths and creating a space where the labor of reckoning with the atrocities of the past takes place. Even if you could not grasp anything else, I need you to understand that our presence as futuristic beings and the otherworldly format of our lab affirms the possibility of transcending the past and present. Liberation is not only possible, it is imminent. We embody hope. We are the future. Next slide, please. I also want us to engage with the theory and method of writer Tina Campt. She helps us to understand that photographs capture and exist within that moment of time. There is what she calls an archival temporality to images, which are the ways that we experience recorded time in archival records. This is something that we can feel, and she refers to that as a haptic frequency or frequency to touch. Tina explores ways of attuning her senses to multiple frequencies to read photography. She refers to this practice as listening to images. As she explains, impressions register when we engage in a haptic encounter with the lower frequencies of photographs. I define the haptic as multiple forms of touch, which create alternative modalities for understanding the archival temporalities of images. Temporalities I have referred to as the grammar of the archive. Here, as previously, what is crucial to the listening practice I have developed is an understanding of photographs as deeply effective objects that implicate and leave impressions upon us through multiple forms of contact: visual contact, seeing; physical contact, touching; psychic contact, feeling; and most counterintuitively of all, the sonic contact that I have described as the frequency that requires us to listen to as well as view images. In other words, photographs leave impressions on us. These impressions are frequencies we can sense through seeing, touching, feeling, and listening. Photographs are not silent. Images can vibrate and be felt in the sonic. These can register as hums of quiet frequencies or the sound of loud frequencies. Next slide, please. So let's take a moment for you to reflect on what informs your imagination. Explore their connections and how they can be applied to the archival realm. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes, and feel free to share it in the chat. Okay, I see there's some comments in the chat. Somebody said, Jaden said, they're inspired by lived experiences. Being a builder of spaces feels very connected to spirit and ancestors when imagining possibilities and knowing anything is possible. That's beautiful. Let's see. Phyllis says things that inform my imagination are history and artifacts at museums, stories from my elders and parents, media, TV shows, art, painting, movies, anime, all the things that appeal to my senses, outdoors and different landscapes, Jamaica, the ocean, prayer, meditation. Ooh, I love that. And Kelly said, sentient expression, face and sound, nature, movement, color, who is creating, shape, intensities. These are beautiful. You can continue to type them in the chat, and we're going to continue. So next slide, please. So if we read archival records, what stories do they tell us? What thoughts do they leave us with? I'm going to model a reading of this archival record. So this photograph is from the Alvin D. McCurdy collection. Alvin was a community archivist and collector who accumulated one of the most significant archives of Black life in Canada. This photograph captures an Emancipation Day celebration in Amherstburg, Ontario on August 1st, 1894. Emancipation Day marks the end of slavery throughout the British Empire, including Canada. Emancipation Day celebrations have been taking place across the country since its inception in 1834. It's a tradition. This photograph was taken only 60 years after slavery was abolished. This is one of the few surviving images of an Emancipation Day celebration in Canada from that time. So if we use the frameworks discussed earlier to inform our reading, the people photographed here are mostly unknown. The man leading the parade is the only person named. He is Moses Brantford Jr. While their names are mostly unknown, we honor and remember them with every touch and glance of this photograph. We can see that they express pride and dignity in their clothing and composure. This is how they wanted to be seen, as a man, as a woman, as a child. If we engage our imaginations, we can also register the unseen. We don't always have the answers, but silences points us to what needs to be remembered. The abolition of slavery solidified freedom for free African American migrants, African American fugitives from slavery, and the remaining enslaved African Canadians. We can imagine that this day is not just about reflecting on the past. This day is about dreaming of a tomorrow with new freedoms, which isn't promised, but there is faith, that it must be. This photograph is powerful. Practicing attunement to the archival temporalities, we can almost hear this photograph. Using our listening practice, we can sense a sound of celebration, but also a low hum of resistance. We can sense the movement. The haptic frequencies register as warm and alive. Next slide, please. So now you're going to apply frameworks of your choosing to write a story about this archival image. This is a photograph of two men, barbers in their shop, in Essex County, Ontario, Canada, around the early 1900s. This photograph is also from the Alvin D. McCurdy collection. The people in this image are unnamed. Think about how you will honor them. The context for this photograph is unknown, and I want to remind you that researchers often come across records with minimal to no description when they are exploring archives. This is because records can be acquired without accompanying information, and information can be lost over time. We have to look for clues and use our imagination to fill what's missing. So I'm going to give you about 7 minutes to write, and feel free to share it in the chat. And can we get some music, please? Okay, I'm seeing some beautiful reflections in the chat. I'm going to read a few. So this one is from Nani, if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. This photo hums with pride, low and warm, like a culmination of hard work that has been steadily growing over decades, centuries. That is the barbershop, is a safe space, a community space, and that the people in the photo are honored to care and cultivate it. That's beautiful. This one is from Crystal. Two brothers opened the first Black owned barbershop in Essex County. They are photographed proudly standing behind their barber chairs to show what they have accomplished. Maybe the photo was placed somewhere as an ad to let other Black people know that they existed, um, and that they're open for business. This one's from Camille. These two men are brothers, but not by blood, bonded by ambition, a desire for something more, and vanity. I don't think being a little vain is bad, especially for Black folks. They were made kin through circumstance. These are wonderful. Ebony. My imagination tells me that this picture consists of the first Black men to own a barber shop in Ontario. Their family owned several other businesses. Their grandparents were born into slavery. It is the 1910s. The picture is being taken by a Black-owned newspaper. Oh, I think I'll find one more. This one's from Comfort. Not one, but two Black businessmen stand with pride. They have cleaned their space and maintained it well, providing a modern space of care for their Black clientele. Their pose denotes a sense of ownership. The space is also a community hub with flyers and commemorative plaques. Here you will be prepared to face the world again with poise and care. This is home. These are really beautiful. Thank you so much. And continue to share them in the chat. Next slide, please. So as we consider these powerful examples of Black archival imaginaries, I want to leave you with these takeaway reflections. What if re-remembering and reimagining the past helps us to see possibilities different in the present? And what actions can you take to apply this learning to your work. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. If you want to keep exploring these ideas together, follow me and the Black Memory Collective on social media. I share ideas on archives and imagination. Thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Yes, thank you so, so much, Melissa. This has been so wonderful. And I feel like this space is so warm right now. And oh my gosh, it's so incredible to even get that imagination, those wheels and those muscles turning and to really, yeah, celebrate and affirm Black folks even through this as well. It feels very spiritual
Yeah,
and loving. So thank you.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so we'll open it up to questions. If y'all have questions, feel free to, you can type them directly into the chat. You can also type in through the Q&A button feature on Zoom. And yeah, I'll give y'all a second to put in your questions and I'll read them aloud. Ooh, okay. I see a question. Someone is saying, can you talk about the strategies we can create when it comes to digital and physical archives?
The strategies, like the methods on how to do digital archiving.
Yeah, I think
Um,
maybe you can talk about it in the reign of your specific work. Um,
yeah.
mhm, yeah.
How we can create digital and physical archives. I think, there's just, you can make it an intention to document your experiences and document things that have value to you that you think you would like people in the future to witness. Um, and preserve these materials by with digital, you have to have multiple copies in different places to preserve it to make sure um, it doesn't get affected by any digital threats. And with physical materials, you want to keep that in a cool and dark place and check on it every once in a while to make sure that it's in a good state. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm seeing another question here that's really lovely. How focal does intuition play into Black archival histories? Ooh.
Mm, intuition. Um, I think that it does, yes, because it's like what I was saying with Camille Turner, where the silence is information. Like sometimes you have to use your own intuition to guide you to try to find the answers. And one of the reasons why I started this session with meditation to open our imagination is because what I find when I talk to researchers, they often have a meditative practice when they're going into the archives, and some people they're also calling on their ancestors to help guide them, and that's what they're using to navigate this very challenging terrain of records being missing, and there's gaps and silences, and so they use this inner guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely feels like a very embodied experience. And yeah, no, I fully feel that. I even when we were thinking through these exercises, I was like feeling like this feels like I feel like this is also tied to grief. You know, grief of
Mm,
like what is yeah, not being said and not being shown. And so that does feel very spiritual and related to yeah, calling on ancestors and
mhm,
intuition as well.
mhm.
Um, I'm seeing a question about AI. Someone is asking, how has archiving been affected both negatively and positively by AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. Some archives are using AI to digitize records, to describe records. They're using it in different ways. Um, there's mixed feelings about it because some archivists believe that it presents ethical challenges when you don't have a human being making these decisions, and it can reinforce existing biases if there isn't a person there that has that awareness to be able to determine what's appropriate to be digitized or what's appropriate to write in a description, for example. So on the one hand, it can create opportunities because um, a lot of archives have what's called backlog, which is vast amounts of records that have not been processed, that are not accessible to the public. And so AI can help in that respect. But then there's also the ethical challenges of allowing the technology to make human decisions.
Yeah, I feel like that's very, yeah, there's a lot to grapple with when it comes to
Hmm.
technology and AI, when it comes to archival work. So thank you for that answer. In the realm of kind of what I was sharing before about loss and grief in the work, someone is asking, Sydney is asking, how do you suggest we lean into imagination without fully losing the truth of what is lost and sitting with that? Thinking of the push and pull Hartman experiences in Venus in Two Acts.
I think it's a challenge because you don't want to imagine to the point where you're basically taking away the voice of the person that you're writing about. Um, but I think just as long as you feel like you're grounded and you're trying to honor the people that it came before us, I think having that intention there and being aware of what you're doing, I think that's the best way of trying to navigate this to make sure you're having a balanced perspective in your imagination.
Mm. And relatedly, someone is asking, how do you deal with the discomfort of maybe overassuming with the archives? And has that ever been an issue for you in your personal work, especially when it comes to family? This person was noticing that it was coming up for them during the reflection, this discomfort.
Sorry, the discomfort in what?
The discomfort of maybe overassuming within the archives. So kind of
Mm,
what we're talking about, leaning into that
mm,
imagination, feeling like you're over, it's assuming for what is there.
mm. Yeah, I think it's the same answer, just trying to find that balance within yourself and trying to make sure that you feel grounded in what you're doing. I don't personally have an experience of feeling discomfort when I do my imagination work. Um, I can understand why some people might feel that way and they might feel like it's crossing a line to use your imagination in this way, or that there is a line that you can cross. Um, but I think as long as you are showing up with that intention to honor those who came before us and you're trying to be really grounded in what you're doing, I think that that's the best way to try to navigate that so that you don't have that discomfort.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like this is tying really beautifully to what you were talking about with intuition and feeling, yeah, leaning into that intuition, leaning into that intention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Someone is asking, just a little bit of a pivot, but someone's asking, any suggestions or resources around archival practices for used fabric in fashion?
Oh.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fashion is an interesting one. Um, on preserving it, is that the question? On how to preserve fabric?
Um, Sorry, I lost the question for a second. Um, they like, could you re-put it in the
Yeah, the question was from Talanye Stewart. If you don't mind clarifying your
Oh,
question in the chat about yeah, resources for archival practice with fabrics.
Also, Dele is our digital storytelling manager. Everyone at Kinfolk
mhm.
Tech.
Um, I am not seeing clarification yet in the chat.
I mean, I don't know a
Oh, wait,
lot
here it comes.
about,
It's
oh,
in there now. Specifically,
specifically.
fashion histories that can be found through fashion.
Mm,
Oh, fashion histories. Oh, how
mm,
to archive fashion histories. Um, I don't know a lot about textile and that side of things. Um, I know that there are some archives that preserve that, but I think it's a little bit more challenging than, say, photographs or textual documents, because of the nature of how the materials are created. But there are resources online if you wanted to learn more about preserving fashion material.
oh, I see some people putting some resources in the chat, which is also beautiful.
Thank you.
Cool. Relatedly to resources, someone is saying, I'm a grad student and from Toronto, Canada, and I was just curious if you knew any places in the city that hold Black archives I could check out other than libraries. Do you also know if there are any archives that focus on Black music and artists?
Okay. City of Toronto Archives has materials. The Archives of Ontario has the Alvin D. McCurdy collection. Um, and uh, the Clara Thomas Archives at York University, they have Carabana materials, and they have some other Black materials as well, but I know for sure they have records from Carabana, which is it's a celebration that happens every every August in Toronto, to celebrate Caribbean culture, where people are dressed in mass and they dance and there's soca music.
Mm, beautiful. I'm seeing a question. Someone is saying, do you think archives can also be about a collective present and future? Like an archive be about collective thoughts, dreams, ideas, plans about what the future can be? Question mark.
Mm. I think you can, because you can archive ideas. So you can archive dreams as well. And I think that would be interesting. Um, to archive thought and dreams and memories. Yeah.
Mm. I think that's beautiful. And I think there's like, yeah, there's so many ways even to do that locally. I feel like I can even imagine like even just creating like, I don't know, some kind of like physical activation and having folks just like write little things on cards about their dreams and hopes. That's really beautiful. I see a question. How can we build better learning habits to activate archives
Mm,
in creative ways? That's a really beautiful question.
mm, better learning habits.
Hmm.
Um, to activate archives.
To
I
activate
think
archives in creative ways. Yeah.
I think just being really expansive with what you're reading and watching and engaging with, to get inspiration from different places to help you approach archives differently and really expand your imagination as well when you're working with archives. I think that is the best way to do that.
Mm, beautiful. Inspiration.
Hmm.
Uh, someone is asking, what advice can you offer to those who want to make archival work our work?
Mm.
Mm,
Um, Anybody can be an archivist. Um, you can learn, there's some workshops. I see some even like summer camps and like boot camps on Instagram. There's different ways to learn. There's resources online, and you can just start small. You can start with one photo album, one um, folder of textual documents, and learn how to preserve it and make it a habit to put things aside, to check on things to make sure the condition is good. Um, and just build it out from there.
Mm. Start small.
Yeah, start small.
Mm. Um, and then I see a question from Barry Parker. And I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. In the age of digital blackface and AI bots on socials, how does digital preservation successfully vet and combat that?
How does digital preservation combat that?
Yes, digital preservation. And how does digital
Um,
combat that?
I don't think that digital preservation. Okay, I think I understand the question now. Um, I mean, the issue of blackface has been a long-standing problem in archives when it comes to digital preservation. Um, because there was a time where a lot of archives were scanning anything and putting it online. And then there were questions about the implications of having harmful materials online. So I think in that same light, if we're thinking about things that are being created now, um, I think it would still present a challenge in archives, with whether or not these materials should be made accessible online or if there's alternative ways of scanning materials and making it accessible to researchers who are interested in it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's such a powerful question. Wow. I feel like I'm even still in the midst of processing that. Beautiful. Olivia Hunt is asking, can you please share a little more about how the archives has informed your imagination?
Mm. I started a daydreaming practice when
Mm,
I was working at my last job, and just being able to re-witness these Black collections, like the Alvin D. McCurdy collection. I worked with that collection, and being able to work with it meant that I had intimate time with it, and I just started to daydream with it. And
mm,
so I have a daydreaming practice because of that. And so that's how it has affected my imagination, how it shaped my imagination. Because you just end up wondering, why did they take this photo and who were they looking at? And, why was this created? Why was this saved? Why was this given to this
mm,
community archivist? How did it end up in this archive? There's just so many questions. And so it's nice to wonder. And there's another collection that I looked at recently from Miss Lou, and she was a Jamaican storyteller. And she had all these objects and photographs, and I just explored and just wondered and asked questions that I knew I would never find answers to because the she didn't necessarily donate all of those materials with all of the contextual information. But it was nice to just be able to explore it and just wonder, and and sometimes that leads you to write something, write poetry, write a novel, and create something beautiful from it.
mm. That is so beautiful. The power of just wondering, the power of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
I feel like that, yeah, I feel like that just keeps coming up. Imagination power, dreaming power, curiosity. And it's crazy that these are the things that I feel like systems don't want you to do. And they keep you
Yeah.
confined into like, yeah.
Exactly.
But to imagine outside of it and to like lean into that is as a practice is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Someone is asking, I know Sadiyah Hartman's critical fabulation method is to work with the scraps, but she also speaks on how she cannot write romanticized stories from the pieces that are not there, and that she
Mm.
must contend with that. How do you navigate those tensions in your own experience with archives? Mm,
Yes, I do remember reading that she had said that. I think just trying to imagine within what you think is real, which is what she did. Imagining within what you think that person's reality could have been and not romanticizing too much beyond that. Um, Having it grounded in something tangible. I think that's one way to do that.
Mm, a tangible tether. Yeah. Okay, another question I'm seeing. When it comes to using archival materials in artwork, do you have suggestions or maybe things artists should know when wanting to share the work with Black archives?
Hmm. Where the art is preserved as an archive, or
I
do
think
you
what
put
that means.
archival materials in the art? Is
I
that what
believe the
they
question is asking about, yeah, incorporating archival materials
archival?
into one's art practice.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I have mixed feelings about that because then it becomes something else and it could potentially get destroyed. Um, but I guess there's ways that you could incorporate it. I know an artist who created this clock with images of his mother. And what he did was he took high resolution scans of his family photographs, and it looked like the originals. But he didn't want to damage the originals, so he used scans. So there's ways
Mm.
um, that you can create duplicates and explore your art practice with the duplicates. That's what I would encourage you to do. That way we're not damaging the original materials. Um, and what was the second part of that question? How you can,
Do you have suggestions or maybe things artists should know when wanting to share the work with Black archives?
oh,
So I guess
sharing it
wanting
with
to share
Black.
their artwork with. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure of what the approach has been for most artists, but there are archives who have collaborated with artists or artists have used their materials. Um, and so there's definitely the potential there for collaboration and for re-engagement with them to amplify your artwork.
Mm. I'm seeing a lot of questions about your archive parties.
Oh, yes.
Super curious. People want to
Yeah.
know what they're like. Are they like Zoom socials? And then someone else is asking, do you have any upcoming archive parties happening soon in Toronto?
Yeah, so the archive parties they take place at an archive, at an institutional archive, and I play music, there's food, and then they learn an archival skills. So the first one was in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, and it was at Library and Archives Canada, which is the National Archive. And they learned how to catalog it was for a group of artists and they learned how to catalog their art. So that was the first one. And then the second one was rehousing magnetic photo albums. So if you've ever seen those sticky photo albums from the 60s and the 70s, those are the magnetic albums. And those albums are actually really terrible for photographs. It deteriorates them. So I showed them how to safely remove the photos. And yeah, so I make it a party. I play music, we have fun. They get a tour of the space. Um, I did want to do one this year, but the plans did not come through. But I'm planning one for next year, and I'm hoping that that one will come through. Um, but yeah, they're a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to do a lot more and to tour them in different cities as well.
It's amazing. Yes, please let us know. Let us all
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
When there's the next one, I would like to. I don't know if I could go to Canada, but but I would love to go. Yeah, that's so incredible, so cool. Um, I'm seeing a question from Dominique who is saying, "What advice would you give new MLIS archival studies students to hold onto these frameworks while entering academia?" Mm,
Yes.
yes, that is the question.
Um, I think just always finding, like making it a practice to do things that keeps your imagination going. Because once
Mhm.
you work in an institution, academia or otherwise, it's very difficult to maintain that imaginative mindset because of just the rigidity um, of the institution and just the way that they think is different. So I think creating your own system of always reading something, exploring something, writing something to just keep that imagination going. Maybe even just exploring archives, going to different archives and imagining with different records that you pull and doing that every so often to keep your imagination going.
That's so real. Keep that alive. Create art.
Yes, make art.
Mhm. Preserve your mind. Um, uh, someone's asking, do you see there being more of a demand for archival research and production in the future in popular culture?
Possibly because there's definitely an increase in interest in archives, and I think there's more curiosity around how do you engage with archives? What does that look like? How, what is that process? How can I get started in that work? So I think that it could. I think that there's a possibility that there would be an increased interest in archival research. Yeah. But I think it would mean that archival research would probably change because it would be people who are not traditionally trained researchers who are doing archival research. And so I think the nature of what that would look like could evolve. It could turn into something different. Like there was a time where imagination was not at the forefront of archival research. And now, for some people, it is because they're writers, they're poets, they're artists, you know. So the more that you get diverse groups of people doing archival research, it's going to shift and evolve and become something more colorful.
Mm. Relatedly, this is my question I had,
Mm,
but it kind of relatedly and kind of dreaming kind of this future or looking forward towards a future where this is prevalent. Like what does your dream of a liberated future where memory justice is alive and well look like with these frameworks? What does that
mm.
look like for you?
What comes to my mind is we can't have memory justice without archives changing. And so I think
Mm,
about the archives, and I think that they need to be even more community centered, and they could be spaces where people really go to heal, to create, to imagine. They can go there and find really explore the archives and find lost stories and
mm,
um and learn archival skills as well, kind of like the archive parties. But if the archives gives back to the people more, and they're a space for learning and for gathering and for healing and for joy, that I think would lead us to more of a memory justice.
mm. I'm like also just super curious and yeah, what joy looks like for you and in your work. I feel like it definitely
Mm,
probably is in that like daydreaming feeling. But yeah,
yeah.
curious for you.
Yeah, definitely the daydreaming. I really enjoy um working with people. I enjoy being able to connect people to records, to help them explore spaces that they maybe would never go into before. Archives and museums and libraries. And I love being able to share things like this,
Mm,
like this talk. I love being able to work with people.
mm. It's beautiful. Okay. Last call for questions. We have a few more minutes before we're gonna kind of pivot into closing. But yeah, last call for if anyone's having anything interesting come to mind. The chat is on fire. I echo that sentiment. Someone put in the chat. Just beautiful. I'm trying to scroll and see all these beautiful thoughts and potential questions. Okay, Kiara said, this is a newbie question, but I'm interested. Nothing is a newbie question. I'm interested in entering into the field of archives, specifically dance archives that highlight Black ballet history. I have knowledge about the ballet from experience as a professional ballet dancer in Montreal, but I am wondering what your path into the field was like and what advice you would give to someone interested to study archives at university level or professionally.
Yeah. Um, my path was like many others that I know. I was not aware that um the archival field was a thing. And I stumbled on it because I met somebody who introduced it to me. And like I said in the beginning of my talk, I ended up realizing like my mom is a family archivist. And so I've actually been exposed to some element of this work. And then I decided um, to study archival studies. And um, I've worked in different archival settings, a law archive, a university archive, a provincial archive, government archive. Um, and so, yeah, I think you just have to find your own path. And it's okay if you feel like you're behind or you're stuck, because I think most people have felt like that at some point. But just like explore. What are you interested in? If you don't know, just try things. Work at an archive that is different, and volunteer yourself to try different things when you're there. And that's how you kind of get exposure to that. Like how I ended up on this path with the Black Memory Collective and doing these types of events and doing workshops and talks. I started um I started with like just one presentation, just tried it out. And then I started working at another archive and I suggested, hey, can I do a workshop? Never did that before. Didn't know if I was gonna like it. Um, but I did like it. I really enjoyed it and I had a lot of fun. And so you have to just put yourself out there and just explore things. And sometimes it doesn't work out the first time. That's happened to me where I tried something and it felt like it was a failure, and you got to just stick with it. If you feel deeply in your gut that there's
Mm,
something there, stick with it and keep trying until you feel like it's working.
mm. Yeah, I feel like a lot of this advice can apply here. But Vic is asking, do you have any advice or insight for how to find an entry point into archival work other than through academia? I'm an organizer and interested in moving towards movement, archival or something like that. The school is not in reach at the moment. Finding that I'm not quite sure what to look for or where to look for beginners. So yeah, in the organizing
Yeah,
space, if there's anything specific coming to mind.
you can try volunteering at an archive, um, or a library or a museum. You can try volunteering. I think volunteering is a great way to get your foot in the door and to get experience. And you can also try um, if there's anyone that you know that has a collection and you're learning on your own and you want to see if you can apply some of those skills, or if you have your own personal collection that you want to work with. You can learn on your own and then try to apply those skills to a collection that you have on hand.
Hmm. Beautiful. And then I'll ask this one last question before we pivot into closing. Someone is asking if you know of any funds or resources available funding-wise for radical archivists who would like to embark on a creative project.
Oh, funding is
Funding is funding.
funding, yeah, yeah. I don't know of on the top of my head. Um, I don't know of a funding source. And in Canada, there is a black a B3 capacity building program, and that's like if you're black serving, black mandated, um, and they offer grants for black organizations that do a range of work. But otherwise, I'm not very I'm not very aware of any funding, unfortunately.
No worries. Thank you. If folks are here and know of any funding grants or anything, feel free to put in the chat for folks. Perfect. Well, thank you so, so much for the rapid fire. I was just throwing questions at you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for all of your beautiful, beautiful answers. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna pivot to sort of closing out this programming. Yeah, can we get to the next slide? Um, Beautiful. Okay, so upcoming events on Kinfolk's End. I just wanted to shout out them that we have coming up. We actually have a program tomorrow. We're doing like a co-screening with Alfreda Cinema, a micro cinema platform for Black and Brown storytelling. And we're screening The Last Angel in History tomorrow at Prospect Park Boathouse. So if folks are in Brooklyn, feel free to come. There's music at 4:30. There's a film at 8 p.m. The film is at 8 p.m. Another event that's coming up, we have another teach-in, beautiful, beautiful teach-in, just like how beautiful this one was. And we're doing that with the Laundromat Project on Wednesday, August 13th at 6:30 p.m. And that is going to be both virtual and at the Laundromat Project storefront. It's called Seating Repair and Revolution. And then lastly, I'll bring up Daily to talk about community voice sessions, um, yeah, that we have going on.
Yeah, so Kinfolk is working on building a new digital storytelling platform. We've been iterating on prototypes, and we are inviting folks to our demo sessions to get an early preview of the platform in its prototype form, get hands-on experience playing around with the platform, and then answering some questions and giving us feedback so that we can continue to improve the design before we take it public in 2027. So I will drop a link to tomorrow's demo session if anyone is available to join. Um, those sessions are not recorded, so it is really only if you can make it to participate. And yeah, we'll have one tomorrow, and then we'll have another one in September. So keep an eye on the Kinfolk social channels if you're interested in the September one. If you can't make tomorrow's, and I'll put a link to register in the chat.
Amazing. Thank you, Daily. Next slide, please. Yeah, and as I was saying before, we do really cool augmented reality monument work. So feel free to download the Kinfolk app and you can pull it up on your phone, put a monument in probably in your own house right now if you wanted to. Yeah, and check out the memory work that we do. Next slide, please. And yeah, just want to remind folks we are a nonprofit, and so it is really supportive when folks do surveys for us, a survey for this teaching. There's a QR code right on the left there for you to share your feedback. We'll also drop the link in the chat for you to do a quick survey for us to help us and support us. You can also donate to us directly so we can keep our programming free and open to the public and keep bringing on beautiful folks like Melissa Nelson to share their amazing craft with us. Yeah, and also want to say that all of these things will be shared in a post-event email as well. Yeah, also please, please, please support Melissa Nelson, a Black Memory Collective. This should be their link to their website, to yeah, learn more about them, get involved, go to a party, an archive party,
Mhm.
follow them on social media. Again, we'll have their socials, our socials, everything, resources that was said in the chat. We'll try to go through and compile resources for y'all as well, and share it in the post-event email. This is recorded, so we'll also send out a link to this recording. But yeah, thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you to Dele and the rest of the Kinfolk team. Thank you so much to the ASL interpreters for this teach-in, and thank you all so much, the audience. The chat was incredible. I feel very warm, and y'all really graced the space with your presence and help folks feel really connected to each other and learn something new from each other.